Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast each and every week during football season and sometimes not during football season, depending on what's happening in and around the area. We bring you very in-depth coverage. We bring you some details, notes, interviews, all of that fun stuff on year 12 of the Seton Rivals podcast, and it continues to grow. That's something we are very, very proud of. It started off as three guys sitting around a kitchen table with a voice recorder expressing their thoughts, and it has grown onto audio platforms. It has grown onto the Facebook page, onto the Arizona Varsity Podcast Network, and it has most recently grown onto Sports 360 AZ. It is a tremendous site. And speaking of growth, I've grown with two guys who you've gotten to know in and around the area, and that would be the founder of Arizona Varsity as well as the Seton Rivals podcast. That would be Ralph Amsden. And of course, there is nobody who is more unique, and I say that in a very good way, folks, than Just Chili. And this past week, our teams, they go 4 wins and 3 losses. The CUSD, 3 up and 3 down, and our one school of faith was indeed a winner. And I always like to start off with just some small banter. Sometimes it's trivial, sometimes it's traumatic, whatever it may be. Ralph, I will ask you, what's going on in your world? It can be sports related, it can be family related, whatever you got, my man. It's always interesting.
I got to go to Duke for the first time this weekend and see a scrimmage between Arizona State and Duke in Cameron Indoor. See Bobby Hurley reunite with Coach Krzyzewski. Get to see Cooper Flagg, the presumptive number 1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft. All in all, a very, very cool experience.
It is. It's a good time. Yes, I would definitely say I've been inside of Cameron Indoor Stadium once, not for a game. Actually, I wound up hopping a plane one day from New York. This shows how long ago it was. I don't know, 2008. I don't even think I was married. So late 2000s. Hopped the car, flew into Raleigh-Durham, hit NC State first, drove over to Duke, finished up at UNC. And you know how college campuses are, guys. A lot of buildings are empty. Stadiums aren't as guarded. Cameron Indoor was empty. I sat and just looked up at all the Raptors and the banner and everything like that. And there was no action. It was just me and a couple other guys just walking around taking in the history. So I'm glad you had that experience, Ralph, and to see people in motion, like you said, Hurley and Coach K, neither who is affiliated with Duke necessarily anymore. That must have been really cool.
It was very cool. And I've had people my whole life tell me that it's small inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. They were soft selling it. It is very small. Feels like a high school gym.
Yes, that is fair. Chili, what you got?
Oh man, Halloween season. So one of my buddies, for the past decade or something like that, he's had this private pumpkin carving contest thing, decorating whatever contest thing amongst a group of us. So the winner gets $1,000. So that's the reason why I do it. He's very generous and charitable. So I try to express some creativity. I've won it twice in the 10 years that we've done this. So it's been a lot of fun. I like going to the pumpkin patch anyways. I take my dogs there and pick out the pumpkins, and I try to come up with a concept. I've carved Minions, Jason's hockey mask thing. I've done the Joker. So I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get some inspiration because the pumpkin patch that I go to usually it's all the proceeds go to a church and stuff. So I usually wait for it to open. It didn't open up until about a week ago on the 24th. So I'm kind of I'm kind of pressed for time since Halloween is literally right upon us. But Brett, I got a question for you. I am curious. I spoke a little bit about this last night. I am curious. Favorite Halloween traditions for yourself, because I know you are the scary movie fanatic in the group. And we've talked about that a couple weeks ago, but like, I'm curious, are there any Halloween traditions that you grew up with that you really enjoyed?
I can't say there's necessarily traditions, but I've got 2 days left to go see Terrifier 3 at a theater near you. So I've got to either do it
see it near me. Go see that. Bring those vibes somewhere else. No, man, that thing looks crazy.
I've got to see it either tonight or tomorrow after all the candy is given out. So it's I can tell you this, after next week, I'll be able to give you guys a report on the movie if you like, but that's on the agenda. Generally, I just like to sit and watch some type of horror movie, as you guys know. But yeah, there was never any tradition or anything of that nature. Just, as a kid, I just enjoyed candy. Something I find different now that I'm on the other side, and Ralph, you can feel free to chime in on this. I find that kids nowadays don't take as much candy as they did when offered back in the day. I mean, when I was a kid, I put my whole hand in the bucket. I tried to take as much as I could. Now, I can't give enough away. I mean, you get these little girls dressed as ballerinas and they want to take one small half lollipop and that sort of thing, or even young Spider-Mans are taking barely one piece of bubble gum. Kids, take it. Man. Take as much as you can.
No, I feel you. You'll hear parents sometimes like, be polite, just one piece or something like that. And I'm like, no, the more you take, the less I eat. So please.
Yes.
But I will. I mean, this year, I think when kids come to the door, I'm just going to straight up trade. I'm going to be like, let me see what you have in your bag.
Okay.
I'm dead serious, because it's the only time of year you get those mini Twizzlers, the strawberry ones. Only time that you ever see them. And I feel like I need to stockpile them. So I think this year I'm gonna engage in some bartering. You can take 10.
Are you a Twizzler? Are you a Twizzler person?
No.
Oh, okay.
I do. I pull and peels are all right. I used to like to eat those at the movies, but no, the mini strawberry Twizzlers are just like they remind me of the season. Like, it's the only time you get them. And then there's a bunch of other stuff like the gobstoppers. You almost never see those except for at Halloween.
That's true.
Dots, which I don't even think I can do anymore without losing a tooth. But and then you're starting to see some retro stuff come back with the kids of the 90s out here handing out bottle caps and stuff like that. Like that, that's always fun when the kids come home with some stuff that they don't even know what it is, so they just hand it to you. I love that.
Hey, I don't know what game I'm going to, but if you hook up some Twizzlers or some Skittles, it's going to be all the coverage you can get, all the coverage you can handle. I promise. Boy Chili taking care of whoever. It doesn't matter what game I go to. If you got the Skittles, if you hook me up with the bag, I'm showing all the love in the world. One way. So I don't care what it looks like. If I pull up to Coconino Prescott and it's a Prescott parent hooking me up, Prescott getting all the coverage. When they drop bombs, it's gonna be they drop bombs on that other team. I'm gonna make sure that they get all the juice, or vice versa. Shout out to Coach Cook. But,
original only? Or are you into all the Skittles?
Yeah, no. Original only. Unless, and I brought this up last night on the show. Unless you got these.
Interesting.
Ridiculous.
Brett, you're from New York. I know you're not like a hype beast, but you are familiar with Supreme, right? Like,
I am.
You know about the skateboard. Okay, see?
Yes.
See?
Yes.
My guy Brett, hipper than Gridiron.
Yeah, I am. I'll go on record and say yes. I definitely am.
Different kind of hip.
Yes.
I love my guy Gridiron. I love my guy Brett. But yeah, no. He didn't know. He thought that these were fake Skittles. So
no, crazy stuff. Crazy. Something that was crazy. Wow. The Valley Christian Trojans. They double up the Trojans of Payson by a score of 28-14. Ralph, they hadn't won a game on the field in over a month. And now they come up with win number 4 in total. Wasn't a lot of stats on the game when I looked, and I don't know if there is some new stuff, but the one thing that has been a vibe between them and Seton Catholic, our two smaller schools, will say, defensive secondary play. A young man by the name of Porter Cross, he had a long INT return, and that seemed to be the difference in a astounding 28-14 win over the Longhorns. Puts them in a decent position.
Yeah, the sophomores really showed up for Valley Christian in this game, and I know they did put in stats this week after a win. It's funny how that works. But yeah, Porter Cross with the interception, that was big. Noah Lewis had 2 picks. Lorden Pickett had a fumble recovery, and then you had a sophomore at quarterback, Austin Shooter, rush for 128 yards and a score. So, this is a team in Payson who we talked about will turn the ball over, and it looks like Valley Christian took advantage of that. And it's pretty cool of them to go in. If you said, hey, Valley Christian's going to play against Payson, who's highly ranked, they're only going to complete 6 passes, you might have thought like, oh, 247 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that's really all they needed. Combine that interception return and bottling up the running game, and all of a sudden, the Christian's still alive.
Yes, they are. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I definitely am anxious. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about rankings with all these schools, especially the back end. That's for sure. Chile, they knock off a 7-1 team on Friday. What's their chances? And again, it's not about a prediction or anything, but now they have the daunting task of taking on 8-1 Ben Franklin. Not an easy team to handle, but with this 100-yard back that Valley Christian suddenly has, you just never know.
Yeah, Shooter, was he playing quarterback also?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Wow.
Is that what so this team is really fully loaded in that backfield with runners. Macias, now Shooter. I don't know what happened with Gil the thrower, but things are definitely interesting. Payson was rolling. Payson was rolling going into this game, and it looked like it looked like they were going to be the ones that kind of closed the door on Valley Christian's playoff hopes. But Coach Peterson finds a way to survive, finds a way to make things happen, and there's new life. These kids, like, man, I'm a little surprised to be having this conversation, because I thought, I was worried that it was going to be over for Valley Christian. We would just be talking about off season and how they fix everything and stuff like that. But look, they got some new life. That backfield fully loaded, and crazy because I think Ben Franklin has opened up their offense a little bit. So I'm if they can control the clock and keep Ben Franklin's offense off the field, they might be able to pull off a shocker again. Look, they did it once. Why not do it twice? Get into the playoffs and continue to shock the world.
I'm here. I'm with you. I definitely am with that. Ralph, you have always been very good with the algorithm, the formula, kind of giving us a really good handle. I got to think that a win against Ben Franklin, currently the Trojans are number 18, a win gets them in.
Yes.
Is there a way that they can get in if they fall to the Chargers?
Technically, yes. You don't want to be in that situation, but technically they can. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in the 3A, if you win your region, you make the playoffs.
I think that is right. I think.
Don't know if that's true.
I don't think it's true for 4A and above, but I think for 3A and below, you win your region, you're in. Because a lot of the reservation teams are in 3A, and the AIA is going to accommodate those schools, because there's no way to schedule for them that would allow them to get into the playoffs.
Yes, I do think yes.
I'm going to make an assumption here, because my belief is that from 4A up, it is not. From 3A down, it is, which means that Page, which is currently ranked below Valley Christian's at 18. I think Page is at 19. Page is going to get in. So if Valley Christian loses, they're going to get that bus bonus of playing the number 1 team, because Benjamin Franklin's number 1 right now. They would need pretty much everybody in front of them going up about 4 spots to lose for that to make an impact, because they're currently, if you consider that Page is getting in, they're currently 3 spots out of the playoffs. Now they're gonna with a loss, they're gonna go up. Their strength of schedule is going to go up a great deal. The other thing that's costing Valley Christian right now is that forfeit against Borgate Catholic doesn't count for anything.
Correct.
So Valley Christian would be 4-5 right now, and they'd probably be maybe around the 16th seed, which means they'd be one seed out of the playoffs. Yeah, that's a huge bummer, and it'd be great if we could do something to address the fact that hurts teams, because a school not being able to field a team keeping you out of the playoffs, that's brutal, right?
Right, because technically you could play spoiler. I mean, we talk about playing spoiler at like higher end sports, but let's say this was the last game of the season. I mean, like the Borgate Catholic, oh, hey, we're not going to show up. And that costs you, the opposition, a spot on that last game of the year. So yes, you're right. That has to be addressed at some point.
So as far as the teams ahead of them, Chrisman is going to win. They're going to beat Coolidge, but Coolidge is at the very bottom of the rankings, so it's not going to help them to get that win. Valley Christian really needs, I'll tell you exactly what Valley Christian needs. They need Payson to beat Sholo. They need that badly because they already have the win over Payson, which would increase Payson's strength of schedule, probably give them a home game, and that would keep Sholo out of getting into the playoffs. Sholo is currently above Valley Christian. Yes. Gilbert Christian has a win over Valley Christian right now. I don't think Gilbert Christian losing does anything to help Valley Christian, because even if they were to try and leapfrog them, it would take away from Valley Christian's strength of schedule. So really what they need is number 1, to beat Ben Franklin. Number 2, they need Payson to win. And number 3, it would be really, really helpful if Dysart loses to ALA West Foothills, which many people consider the number 1 team in 3A. I know we do it at Arizona Varsity. So if Dysart loses, then that means they'll lose the region. I think the only way for Dysart to get in is to beat the number 1 team, which is rough because they'd be 8-2 at that point. But they could probably miss the playoffs at 7-3. So if Dysart misses at 7-3 and Payson beats Sholo, then Valley Christian could maybe backdoor their way in, but beating the number 1 team is going to jump you up 7-8 spots. So that'd be the best way to get in. And if you beat the number 1 team going into the playoffs, then you got to feel really good about your chances against anybody.
Absolutely. Yes. Hopefully, indeed, their name gets called on Saturday morning. Absolutely.
Which you'll be doing.
Which I will be doing, indeed. We will move on to the Seton Catholic Sentinels. They're coming off a bye week, 6 wins and 2 losses, 2-0 in the region. They travel to the west side to take on a 3-5 Sierra Linda team. Chili, my guess is as long as Seton does what they do, and that's pretty much unleash Luke Aggie on people, they shouldn't have a problem with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they get off the bus. They should win this game. Listen, I saw Seton totally take Gila Ridge apart, and right before the bye week, and then and you also saw that, and I'm pretty sure Gila Ridge beat Sierra Linda. So just common opponent, and Ralph nodding that way tells me it was a blowout. So I'm just reading facial expression and movement and stuff. So I'm just thinking
44-7 Chile.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't close, and
no.
And yeah, obviously Seton beat Gila Ridge pretty handily, and I know that Gila Ridge was missing some guys for Seton, but go ahead and give me Seton to win this one big, as long as they get off the bus and Walheim says some good things to get them hyped. I think that they should be in cruise control and get ready to fight for their 8th victory of the season in their last week.
Yes, very true. There's currently 6-2 Ralph. Looking at them, they're number 9. They're still 3 full points basically behind the number 8 seed Thunderbird. Obviously, they got to win here, and some things have to happen. It would be amazing if the Sentinels wound up getting a home game, because I think collectively we're like, if they even made the playoffs, that would be awesome, let alone entertaining the thought of a home game. Here it is, the last week of the season.
Absolutely. The most amazing thing would be if Thunderbird moved up, because I think there are teams that Seton Catholic matches up well against. I'm not sure Thunderbird is one of them.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they still do have the ability to earn a home game. All they have to do is take care of what's in front of them. They beat Sierra Linda and La Jolla, and they're an 8-win team. It's very crowded at the top. The top 8 teams in 4A, I think, have 5 combined losses. So, it's going to be really, really tough to squeeze in and get a home game. However, some of those teams play each other. So it is possible that if you just take care of business, you might end up in that top 8. I have an insane statistic. I don't think I've seen anything like this. I wanted to run it by you guys. Percentage of overall rushing yards for one player. What would you consider to be extreme? Like if for a team's total rushing yards versus one player's rushing yards.
Extreme.
Like what percentage of a team's total rushing yards would just be extreme workload for that one player?
75%.
70. Okay, yeah, that's right. I'll rock with Brett on 75, maybe 80.
Okay,
that's a lot.
Luke Aguiar has 93% of Seton Catholic's rushing yards this year.
That's so legit.
That's crazy.
He's an animal.
He is.
He's an absolute animal.
Like 250 more rushing yards than the team has passing yards.
That's nuts. That to me might even be more impressive than the percentage of running. The fact that he has that many more rushing yards than Dixon's passing yards. That's crazy. That's to see it unfold was really cool. I mean, because I had not seen Seton prior to last week. And it's like, okay, we look at the numbers and the stats, but he does it effortlessly. He returned the opening kick 60 yards. And it's like, oh, wow, this is him. This is for real him. Because obviously, let's throw the Snowflake game out the window. Snowflake bottles everybody up. But to see Aguiar against an opponent not named Snowflake, it's poetry in motion. I mean, his yards are legit, and he's doing it. So it's great to see. So, yes,
he is currently number 2 in 4A for total rushing yards, right behind Thunderbird's Elijah Little.
Wow.
Yeah, and I believe he's up there in rushing touchdowns as well. Max Preps took the ability to sort by touchdowns out. But as far as I can tell, Elijah Little is the only player with more rushing touchdowns and more rushing yards, and he only has 80 more rushing yards than Luke Aguiar.
That's crazy. That's good stuff. Hopefully Aguiar gets his. He certainly will eat on this Friday night. The Arizona College Prep Knights, they continue to dominate. This time it's a 69-0 shutout over Desert Sunrise. 3rd shutout of the season for Coach Vaught's team. We thought that Evan Heinrich had a good game last week. He had a better one this past week, completing all 15 of his passes, 6 for touchdowns, 260 yards. Ralph, that's a really nice ratio on the year, 21-0.
That might be even more surprising than if before the season we had said, Seton Catholic might have the rushing leader in 4A, and Arizona College Prep might have the touchdown to interception ratio leader. I mean, it's infinite. 21-0 is an infinite ratio. So he's tied with the best in the country. But if you had told me those two things before the season, then I'm like, well, then we better be having a Seton Catholic Arizona College Prep final.
All right.
we might. It's possible.
That is very true.
That's true.
Chili,
I think it's in the playoffs. If they meet in the playoffs, especially if it's after round 2, so semifinals or finals, then we get to declare this a rivalry. We get to Arizona College Prep might not be in 4A for long, but for the purposes of this show, we'll hype it up.
No, that'd be good. That'd be amazing. And it's weird because sometimes I forget that Seton Catholic is actually in 4A. I mean, I'm so used to them being a small school that you forget what level they're on. They've just done under the radar things because a lot of our upward trajectory is towards ACP, because as we said, they're not going to be in 4A for long. But so great to see the Sentinels doing well. And Chili, I'll mention this and kind of you give your outlook. Yes, they blew out Desert Sunrise, and Heinrich had a ton of TD passes. It's important for them to keep that passing game momentum up, because when it comes to the playoffs, and we expect a decent run in the playoffs, they're going to have that balance. So I have zero issue with Heinrich going long in these last few regular season games.
No. Listen, we've dealt with this many times on this particular podcast. The three of us have had these discussions, various situations, different teams. Back in the day, Casteel with Coach Stowers, people complaining that he was running it up. I always said, like, hey, look, you got to give your guys their reps. You got to keep them. You got to keep them 4 quarters ready for the playoffs, because in the playoffs, teams are going to get tougher. And those guys are going to have to play into the 4th quarter versus those Seton teams that we absolutely loved, but they were benching their guys at halftime. And then once they got into the playoffs, the 4th quarter, they were burning out because were not used to playing 4 quarters of football. They were used to being pulled out in the first half. So listen, like, I love what Coach Vaught is doing. Keep your foot on the pedal. Don't take your foot off the pedal until you put that championship trophy up. You got to get points. Do it however you got to do it. Keep your receivers warm. Go through all of them. Go through, whatever you got to do. Keep the momentum. This team has scored like since that first game in Indiana, and I know they hate that I bring that up. But since that first game in Indiana, this team is on an absolute tear, looking like a juggernaut on both sides of the ball, mercilessly blowing out almost everybody.
Yeah.
Like, the games aren't close. Like, the message is, put us in 5A. That's where we belong.
Absolutely.
We want that comp. We want that smoke. They're no longer just a new team in Chandler, the other team in Chandler, the team down the street. Hey, they are that team right now. Out of all the Chandler teams, this is highly likely going to be one of the ones that we're covering for the duration of the football season and talking about a championship with them. So listen, you got to score 70, you got to score 100, you got to flip that scoreboard upside down and shut that thing off. Like, do what you got to do. I love what ACP is doing.
And that Indiana game did exactly what it was supposed to do. It got a loss out of their system, and it truly is the toughest opponent that they have played. I mean, it toughened them up in so many ways. So no, they've done a lot right. What I don't like is the fact that they've fallen to number 3 behind Yuma Catholic. I'm not cool with that. I mean, I get it. It's points and all that, and we even see at the college level, hey, they beat such and such, but they're still ranked behind them. But that 3-2, the semifinal, that's big. That's because that's a potential trip to going to Yuma or them coming here. Ralph?
Wait, I thought that one was neutral site. That's not neutral site?
4A semis, I don't believe, are neutral sites. I'm almost sure that they're not. I think you're on mute, Ralph.
Mute. Ralph, you muted yourself.
I'm back. Where are you going to find a school close to Yuma, even if it is neutral site? What are you going to have to go to Tucson?
Casa Grande? Halfway.
That's definitely not halfway. That's for Yuma Catholic. It would be a lot farther, but
yeah, semifinals are at the high seed, so that's big.
Oh, are they?
2 or 3, yes.
Crap. That's crap.
But we know this. We know they don't take rankings into. We know they don't take rankings or head-to-head into consideration in the rankings. And Arizona College Prep is 7-0. They are 7-0 against Arizona schools. Meanwhile, Yuma Catholic 6-1, I believe, with with the loss being to Arizona College Prep. So you would hope that would rectify itself. And Chili seems to believe there's ghosts in the machine, and it can be manipulated. And I'll leave the conspiracy theories to him. But the 4A rankings are pretty entertaining to me, because any human would take these rankings and they would completely reorder the top 5. Any human would. Micah Mountain has given up like 20 points in the last 7 weeks, and they're ranked 5th by the AIA. Meanwhile, Snowflake, I believe, won their last game 13-10, and they would be in the open if they didn't have a special meeting.
Right. Oh my God. How crazy is that? I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Yeah. That's yeah, I will say that over these next 10 days, I really hope the rankings shake out the way they're supposed to, because I think this is probably the deepest in the season, especially since the Open has begun, that people are talking about multiple teams. There's always been one team, oh, well, hey, they're hanging around. They'll probably fall out with a loss or whatever. And we haven't even gotten to Premier Region stuff yet. It's one of those things where we're hearing multiple teams should not be placed where they are. And we are very, very close to the end of the season. So we got to see how this, I'll say this. If you are a team that we cover on this podcast, just win, baby. Just do what you can control, and let's let the powers that be kind of shake it out. The Perry Pumas, they fall to the Williamsfield Blackhawks 17-7. Offensively, the meter is dropping. They go from a season high 45 points on September 27th to each week scoring less and less to a low of 7 in their most recent game. Chile, I know they've been hit with the big injury, and they've got a young quarterback who will improve. There's no doubt about that. But at this point, I thought they would be 6-2, gearing for a high 6A seed, not 4-4. And it's fair to say that the Pumas are not trending upwards.
Man, listen, this is this was an ugly loss. It was an ugly loss. I went back. I got some of the film sent to me and stuff. I watched some of it. Man, and I don't know how else to put it out there but to just put it out there. Perry's game plan I thought was good. It was just a little bit like there was just a lot of drops. There was a lot of catchable passes, that just routine stuff that these receivers, they typically would make the plays. The LJ Walkers, the Hayden Moons, like those guys typically would make these plays easy, routine, no problem. I watched them do it versus Desert Ridge. I've watched them do it versus Brophy, Casteel, all these teams, and those play like just drops, just routine. If they make a few more of these catches, they're winning this game. It was just an, you know. I know I'm probably going to get vilified again for the second time in 2 weeks, but you know, it was just, I don't know, concentration or whatever. Just, I just saw a lot of drop passes that disappointing in the terms that, you know, as we cover this team, we want them to be successful, right? Like we low key on this podcast, I'm able to compartmentalize what I do. And, you know, I try to cheer for Perry in that aspect. I just felt like I saw a lot of uncharacteristic drops. I know these receivers are better than that. I've covered them, so I know. And you know, Cale, he's young, but you know he's making the throws. They got talent. I know they were hit with that tough injury to the heart and soul of their defense, Jaden Kimling. But you know they got to win these games. They needed that game. They needed that game. That's the only way I can put it. I was, when I was watching the film, I was like, dang. I was like,
wow, routine
stuff. Like, but that's just, you know, what I saw.
Sure. Ralph, if I'm correct, Perry is 0-14 lifetime against the Chandler Wolves. That's their next opponent. If they don't win this game, Ralph, it's a strong reality that the Pumas are going to finish sub 500 this year. I mean, they're 4-4. They drop this. Yes, it's 4-5. Basha, they're going to be an underdog. That's 4-6. Postseason, I believe they make the 6A, but who knows what happens in the postseason. So it's tough right now for the Perry Pumas.
Yes, it is tough. It's okay to go 4-6, though. It's okay.
Especially in this region.
Yes, very true. Very true.
And so, and I don't mean like you should plan on it, but let's say, like Chili said, they're banged up. They just had back-to-back weeks where they had 10 or less first downs in a game. If you take away the L.J. Walker 38-yard catch in this game, they ran 53 plays for 107 yards.
Wow, it's 2 yards of play.
Exactly, 2 yards of play, yeah.
Right.
So that's brutal. Whatever you need to do to get healthy, to preserve, I'm not saying throw games away or anything like that, but if you want to experiment, if you want to move some pieces around, if you want to get some people some work to figure out if they'd be better at different positions, you want to move around a guard and tackle, now is the time to do it, because you're going to go in to the 6A playoffs based on your strength of schedule with a decent seeding.
Yep.
And you already know that you're, when you're closer to whole, that you're a tough team. So, understand that if you got to limp into the playoffs, fine, but just do what it takes to heal on the way. So that when the playoffs start, you've got as good of a shot as anybody to make a run. Nobody's going to complain about going into the playoffs 4-6 if you finish 8-6, which is a thing that Saguaro did last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. They had 5 losses, but yeah. But that's exactly what they did. They ran the table in the back end. So yeah, that's Perry needs to get themselves together, and I think you said it right. They don't have anything to lose right now. In a sense, they're going to be in the postseason. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, you're playing with house money as far as experimentation on your roster. So now
this Chandler game, this Chandler Perry match.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Since you brought up, Chandler, I think that this is possibly the most winnable game between Perry and Chandler for Perry, possibly in the last 8 years.
I agree. I mean, because you figure, I believe Chandler is down their quarterback, Will Menzel. From what I understand, he broke his wrist on Friday night.
I think I saw that on the app somewhere.
Yeah, he did not play the second half. He did not play the end of the first half either. So you're going in. Now, the difference is, yes, Chandler is playing a quarterback who is going to take first-team reps all this week.
Carmigiano,
who threw the
super
TD,
talented thrower.
Yeah, threw the TD pass to Carter Ochoa at the end of the first half that had everybody like, oh my goodness, check this out. So this is a winnable game for Perry, but they've got to do some things right. I mean, we know that Chandler 100%. Has Tristan Halsana. We know he's got Carter Ochoa. Now, I'll say this, Carmigiano and Jai Jones are getting a lot of work this week. That's one thing they did not have last week because they lost Menzel. So you always want to have that 1 week connection. So we'll see what goes on. But the Wolves, they put up a fight. They end up losing to Basha 38-27. Ralph wild game from the get-go. Chandler fumbles the opening kickoff, and 12 seconds in, Bash is up 7-0. But then next thing you know, Chandler bounces right back, and on an ensuing kickoff, it's Basha that fumbles the kickoff, and Chandler recovers. And it's like, wow, the Wolves are up 14-7. Halsana's getting his. Menzel's finding a groove. We mentioned Carmigiano and Ochoa connecting both for the half. I'll say Jai Jones is all that. Great receiver. He has got it going on. We'll be talking about him for a long time. But in the end, Ralph, that Basha defense comes up with a second half shutout.
What did we say last week? We said Chandler's a first half team. Basha's an all game team.
Yes.
But I didn't expect it to play out exactly the way that I
drew
said. This is the first time in a really long time Chandler's had 3 regular season losses. And I know that people are probably antsy about the future, especially with Will Menzel down. We know this is not an open team. I think we probably knew that headed into the season. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Things ebb and flow. However, they still have the opportunity to continue to progress. I thought they did a respectable job against Basha.
Yeah.
They probably went into that locker room afterward and said, we blew it, which is not a bad thing. It's better to go into that locker room and say we blew it than we got blown out.
Correct. Very true.
Because then it's just about adjusting the dials here and there to be able to get to where you want to go. So
we also have to think about who they played. They played Basha, which we arguably collectively would say is the best team in the state. And the fact that they fought with them essentially tooth and nail, it was, yeah.
I don't feel bad for, I feel bad for Will Menzel, of course, but I don't feel bad for Chandler. I think they're showing progress. Tristan Hassan is actually the 6A leader in rushing. That kind of surprised me. He's also the closest to 1,000 yards. I think he needs maybe 69 more yards or something like that to get to 1,000. So that, we talk about Chandler reestablishing the run. They've done that. They just have to find a way to come out of halftime with some life. They have not done that all season long. And I had a couple of coaches tell me, like, well, it was because of this, this, and this. Like, no, at this point, it's a trend. I think they're averaging like 4 points a game in the third quarter on the season.
That's not even good.
No. So there is a theme there. What it is, I don't know. It's not my job to figure it out. But I'm just telling you what the number is, and that's not good enough to win every game. So they got to figure out what they have to do to be able to come out of halftime. It was going to be a tough one in this one because you get the opening kickoff and you surrender it, which means you're kicking off at the end of the half. So, they're already going to take a few minutes off the clock. But, I don't know if it's deferring. I don't know what it is they need to do to set themselves up to just do something coming out of halftime to make the team feel like they can continue what they built on in the first half.
No, I'll say that. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this week it'll be a good matchup. I mean, both sides have reason to try to figure things out. Like you said, Chandler, with the third quarter. Perry, what do you have in the – I don't even want to say in the tank, but at some point the Pumas have to come up with a good showing. So we'll see. Chili.
I need everybody to understand. This is genuinely one of the best coaching jobs that I've seen Coach Garrison do.
Sure.
In terms of, coaching kids up, playing better than expectation. Because if I would have told you guys 3 years ago that this is what it was going to look like for them, and I did tell a lot of people that that it was going to head this way because, one, things don't last forever. He had an insane amount of talent those two championship years when he came out the gates and won those two Open Division championships. And Coach Boyd, who was leading that freshman program, literally, he didn't set the bar. He was the bar for freshman coaching, for freshman coaching in the state of Arizona, constantly, coaching kids up, moving kids around, running a two-headed quarterback system at the freshman level when, like, parents don't put up with that these days. No, my kid's got to be the only quarterback taking reps. And he constantly, 2 years, 3 years, had two quarterbacks playing, rotating, and being good teammates about it, cheering each other on. Chandler had an insane amount of talent. And, yearly, Chandler had a quarterback transferring in, nationally recognized, not necessarily even the number one player in the country, but a nationally recognized quarterback. The 1 year, they even had three of them come in, all at the same time. Listen, the last year, this year, it's the best coaching job I've seen Garrison do. It really is. Blake Heffron moved back to quarterback after being moved to like athlete/receiver, and was doing a solid job as a quarterback. This year, I know they had a transfer come in, Will Menzel, but Carmigiano, he's going to keep the team afloat. All those guys that I mentioned before the Casteel game that transferred out and are up for whatever Player of the Year honors or playing at the elite IMG academies and stuff like that. The guys that stayed behind, the Isaiah Garcias, the Logan Rays, the guys like that stayed in the system, that got coached up, that are playing better, that are going through the grind. Dude, this is one of the best coaching jobs over this year and last year that I've seen from Coach Garrison in terms of coaching kids up and making them better. I just wanted
what
to
I
say
like
that.
about the Wolves, even right now, if we look at their freshman team and JV team, winning records, they're winning games. So, I mean, there was a time where people were like, oh, yeah, hey, and kind of what you're saying, the pipeline's drying up and this and that. They may not have that big-time talent like they used to, but they've got winnable kids and winnable teams and games at the lower levels, which will stick around. And consequently, yes, the Wolves might be down, but they're going to be rising up. So it's
they're going to come back. They got a strong group of 27s over there, obviously led by Menzel, and they got a nice tight end and stuff like that. Like they're going to be okay. But yeah, man, like the Swopes and all those guys that stuck around, the Browders, the Scooby Bradleys, that went through it, the seniors, all those guys. Some guy, dude, Chandler's going to be fine, and I love the job that Garrison's doing. Sometimes keeping the program afloat is a lot harder than just winning the championship with all the talent there.
Absolutely.
When you have all the talent, it's easy to do because you have all the talent. All you got to do is move guys in the right places, and you have 20 coaches on your staff. But when you don't have all the talent, you got to make these guys better day in and day out. That's when you see the true grind and how good a coach really is. So, all those people, all those people that were talking, all those Chandler fans and all that stuff, Chandler's in a good place, and they're gonna get back. They're gonna get back, and I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll move on to the Casteel Colts. They fall to the Hamilton Huskies by a score of 17-7. They're now 4-4 on the year, and much like the Perry Pumas, they had a season high of 45 points to Mountain Ridge back on September 20th, and now they are at a low of 7. I'll ask Chile, and I'll stick with you for this one initially. They got to score some points if they are to win some games. They really need to find what got them some of those victories early in the season. I get it, the competition's tougher, but they've got 2 more games on their slate. Next week is a winnable game, I'll say. This week is a much more challenging game.
Yeah, look, you mentioned it. They do got weapons, the Mason Lewises, the Kabakis, and I think Beeman's back healthy now. So they got guys that can make plays and do some things. So Paul Palmer, he's just gonna have to find them. He's gonna have to make that thing work. Defensively, they got dudes. I know that Newcomb will figure this thing out and they'll get going. Your answers on Casteel are as good as mine. I do got to get out there and get a look at them. But we saw what Paul Palmer was capable of early on, and we know what he can do.
Great running back.
And the other running back they have over there also Sorensen. So like they got guys over there that can make things happen. So I'm not sure where it went bad. Yes, competition might have stepped up a little bit, but they can play at that level. They can. So.
Ralph, does it seem like every year this time we're always talking about Casteel and their 6A seeding? It seems like this is a program, and I don't think they'd be offended by me saying this. They don't really move the needle. I mean, you know what you're getting when you enter that Casteel program. Sound coaching. You're probably not going to play for a championship, but you're going to play in a playoff game. You may even win 1 or 2, but for the most part, it's a very status quo program. Which is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, I think in this is a game that's going to frustrate them because they had the opportunity to win.
Yep.
I think Hamilton only ran like 41 plays, which is absurd. Casteel held the ball all game long. They were +1 in the turnover battle, I believe. They had 2 long drives that ended in missed field goals, so they got nothing out of them. And then they finally score a touchdown late in the game, and that makes it 17-7. But, I think they had more total yards. They won time of possession. They held Lucero to under 50% passing, made him make a couple of mistakes, but then they had a couple of drive-killing sacks that Hamilton's defense forced, and they missed a couple of field goals. This feels very much like Arizona State against Washington in 2023, where it's that they're walking away from this game like, how did we lose? We dominated the ball. How did we lose? So yes, it fits into the overall narrative of the Casteel collapse, which happens every year since they've been moved to 6A. If you look at their records in the front half of the season versus their records in the back half of the season, not good at all. But this game on an individual level, they played well, and they have to walk away from this not encouraged, but with the belief that there is more in the tank, that they're more than what showed up against Hamilton, and more than what the scoreboard reflected.
That's fair. No, that's definitely a fair assessment. The Hamilton Huskies, fellas, they continue to do what they do. I'm going to say it seems like the Huskies are a very underrated team. I mean, when was the last time that they were 7-1 and after 8 games not in open talk? I mean, it's something is not meshing well. The numbers are not adding up. I mean, Coach Dixon, he stays away from that stuff. And I mean, he's focused on football, and we'll talk about rankings and seedings and all that stuff very shortly. But let's hear what Coach Dixon had to say. He is great to talk to, and he's really enjoying being the head coach of his alma mater. I'm here with the head coach of the Hamilton Huskies, and that is Travis Dixon. And Coach, the one thing that I've noticed about this season and just kind of you and your demeanor on the sidelines, you're having fun. It's a business, obviously, and you're here to win games, but at the same time, seeing you for the first year and just how you go about things, you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I think Friday Night Lights is always a fun day for all high school kids and high school coaches. We enjoy it for the things that we get a chance to showcase what we worked on Monday through Thursday, and just the work that we put in, and just make it a great experience for not only our players but our community as well.
The depth of the program seems to be on the uptick. Seems like there's more kids on the sidelines. The lower levels are doing well. Honestly, Coach, I think that has a lot to do with yourself. You're one of them. Kids know that, hey, wow, Coach played here. And I mean, and you're a younger guy. It seems like that's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Hamilton does have pride.
100%. We take pride in what we're doing. I think we continuously want our players to feel like they're a part of it at all levels. That they have a part, and there's this place. This is the place for them. They have a place here. I look at it as that way as much as possible right now, and continuously to grow those numbers as we look at attracting our kids on our own campus every day. Right, we're one of the bigger student bodies on camp in the state of Arizona. I mean, we have enough talent running around that building. You look at all sports, are doing very well. So I think this just speaks volumes to the coaches and the young men and women that we have, student athletes here on campus. I think it starts internally first, and everything else will take care of itself as we talk about Hamilton being the destination place.
It's still a couple of weeks away, but you as a player here, you kind of started the rivalry. Hamilton-Chandler, you were a part of the early stages. You played in it. You probably observed it from a distance in your various football travels, and now you're back. Just your early thoughts on what the rivalry has developed and what it means.
I think the rivalry, it's grown tremendously. I look at just CUSD athletics has grown tremendously since I finished in 05. So I think just the fact that the way they play for a trophy, which is awesome to see. And those are things where we just play for bragging rights. It's still bragging rights, but there's something to show for those things, right? Which is awesome. That's been kind of started now, and it's been going on for a very long time. I'm excited about that. And just the things that they do as it amps up for the game of that, of that week. But, I can't look past all that. We got a tough opponent ahead of us this week is Red Mountain, and all that stuff with Chandler. We'll tackle that on once we got to handle business this week and prepare ourselves the best way possible. What we've done as we go to go play Red Mountain on the road, which is a very tough opponent.
Your story. You played here, obviously. You go on to college. Tell me about what you've picked up at your various spots, from playing at the D1 level to coaching. Just kind of what got you back home.
I think this is always, like I said, it's always been a place of home. I think, when you look at the college world and doing all that, different things happen for different people and different dynamics. Whatever my dynamics were in my situation brought me back here, and I'm happy to be home. And I'm at a dream job that a lot of people would love to have. I just think the things that I've learned throughout that time is how to prepare, how to teach is the most important thing, and how to teach young men of not just life skills, but also the game of football and adapting to the world that our young men live in and how they learn and what's the best way for them to learn, I think, and to retain information. Those are the things that I've learned along the way. That's part of it, but the leadership and developing leaders and getting to understand what it means to be a player's coach, but also demanding the most out of them every day.
And that's a fine line, I would imagine.
It definitely is. You try to find that balance, right, every day. But I think the truly, honestly, most important thing is the kids know you're invested in them and what their future holds, and not just make it an X and O's thing.
Your quarterback essentially speaks for himself. You probably knew who QB1 was going to be coming in. But there was one game a few weeks ago, he completed passes to 13 different receivers. Tell me about your receiving core. Sabrium Torres is one of them. He's a guy who I think he caught the first touchdown of the year, actually. Yep. I got to speak to him a couple weeks ago. Just tell me about that factor offensively.
I look at it as these guys are developing trust with one another in a new offensive scheme. I think Rich has grown throughout the scheme as well. To understanding like, hey, you have to guard everybody within what we're doing. And like I said, we have a great core of guys. Like you said, start with Save Torres, who's the leader of that group. And those guys are doing well, and they're having confidence with one another and knowing where their places are and when their moment is to make the plays that they should make. So,
Coach, thank you so much for your time. We're rooting for you against Red Mountain.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
As we look at that picture, we see Rich Lucero in the background. We see former head coach Dick Bano, the AD, Brett Palmer, the head track coach, EJ Martin. That Huskies pride is very, very special. We know that Chandler has that whole family field, but Hamilton certainly has a lot of pride. And for whatever reason, Chili, I feel that this pride is just not being respected this year, guys. I mean, I get it. The East Valley region, yes, ALA, Queen Creek, they're having great years. But for the life of me, I can't picture a 7-1 team right now not being considered in the open, even behind Higley. I'm stuck on that. I'm just not feeling it.
I definitely don't disagree with the Higley statement right now. And listen, I got a profound amount of respect for Coach Zuby.
Oh, of course.
I think that 5-3 though, and ahead of teams like Hamilton is kind of crazy to me. But we have discussed this. That early schedule, it was a little light. It was like
it's not supposed wasn't supposed to be light. They're playing the open runner-up to lead the season off. It wasn't supposed to be
right.
Like
it's not their fault, but it is what it is. Like, I mean, nobody could have. None of us would have projected that Centennial was going to struggle that badly out the gates through their first 5 games. I really believe that a lot of us thought that they would be 2-3, 3-2. I think they were 1-4 or something like that, right? Like, so, they struggled. That's not Hamilton's fault, but you also can't. It's also tougher to reward them. Centennial was good, but wasn't there like Desert Vista and Valley Vista and like some of those other schools in there, like in that mix for Hamilton? So, I don't know. I think that Dixon's doing an amazing job there, though.
He is.
He's back home. To your point, Brett, I do think that there is a little lack of respect, but I think that that's good. I think that Hamilton needed that. I think Hamilton needed to be disrespected to build what they are building, and I'm kind of glad that it's happening. I do hope that they can win the most amount of games possible without me cheering for them against another CUSD team or whatever, however that works. So, like, I'm hoping that this is an 8 or 9 win team, right? And I do hope that they get into the open. But, dude, if they don't, they better go get that respect in the 6A conference playoffs and make sure that the powers that be never put them in that situation again.
If they don't, it would be very, very upsetting. Because I can tell you right now, there's not 10 better teams in this state than Hamilton. I mean, I don't even want to think about them not being in the open. I think if they beat Red Mountain this week, I think that part is put to bed, but I'm just not. I look at this 7-1 record, and again, like you said, the schedule unfortunately worked out a little bit lighter than they thought, but this whole 3-5-8 teams, that's bothering me.
Hey, listen, the big bright spot though for Hamilton, Bojan Dro's back, first game healthy, and making an impact, doing his thing. I think that's big for Hamilton right now at this stage of the season and stuff. The other thing, Jacob Brown, what can Brown do for you? And
century mark last week.
Out.
Yeah,
my man's can do what he's there to do. Give him the ball and let him go. He can do that. So shout out to him. Offensive line play has been decent. They got a lot of athletes on defense that are dogs. And they got a lot of athletes on offense that can make plays. The Sabrian Torreses, the Roy Olivers, all those guys that you've mentioned in the past, Brett. And I just want to see these guys go to work, especially on defense. I want to see these guys, force turnovers. Listen, Red Mountain's very, very blue collar. I saw them earlier this year versus Highland. The way that they went and bullied Highland around, which Highland doesn't usually get like pushed around like that.
True.
The way Red Mountain was able to do it. Listen, the Haney brothers in that secondary. Bodie Wagner is an absolute dog at receiver. Simon Lopez is playing some of the best football that I've seen from a quarterback. They got guys all over the place. Bogle at running back, Jameson Wade, the linebacker over there. Look, these guys are blue collar and they're gonna come to hit. They talk with their pads, so you better talk back.
Now that's Ralph, your thoughts on the Huskies as we wrap this up, just whether it's their performance on field, whether it's a future performance. I mean, this Red Mountain thing is big.
Yeah, it's very big. Hamilton has played. This will be their third Thursday game of the year. They've struggled a little bit on Thursdays with the one touchdown win over Centennial, and then being Desert Ridge got them 21-0 in the second half of their game. So, going to make sure you have everybody focused. And I think this is really Travis Dixon's first real big test. You're not going to get to play Red Mountain every year. You're certainly not going to get to play a 7-1 Red Mountain coming off a loss that they would love to have back. They're going to be motivated. They're going to be angry. And this is This is essentially an open playoff game 2 weeks before the end of the season for Hamilton, because they could go 8-2 and miss the open, or they could go 8-2 and make the open, but they're not making the open without a win over Red Mountain. Not with the way things are stacked up right now.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like Chili said, the Jandro brothers, with both of them on the field, that's 21 tackles a game that you're averaging. The fact that Jacob Brown is back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. Lucero's seen everything that there is to see. They've got a great pass rush. LeBlanc has forced 3 fumbles. This is a very, very good team. They're deserving of being in the open, and they might have to win out to get there. And it's hard to believe that you could have a 5-3 Higley team that could end up 7-3 and get in over Hamilton.
Yesterday, I started to go ahead, Chili. Go ahead.
No, okay. So I brought up the light schedule early, and Ralph brought up that Centennial. We didn't know that they were going to be like that. And then Ralph just brought up another great point. Red Mountain, we didn't know that they were going to be like this. So that's
true. Also, that is a very good point.
This is how Hamilton gets their get back. Look, Centennial was light. Okay, Chili, we get it. But Red Mountain, they very, very heavy right now. So you get this win versus Red Mountain, and it might turn everything around and put them right. It might catapult them straight into the open. Dude, this is a huge matchup. And look, Jacob Brown got a lot of familiarity with Red Mountain. In fact, he ran his way to that championship ring versus Red Mountain. Red Mountain didn't forget that either. So they're looking for Jacob hey, man, we remember you. So, and Jacob, he going to wear that championship ring maybe to the locker room just as a reminder is, hey, I popped out for a healthy 140 in front of Coach Graham from Washington, against this team. I'm going to do it again. This game's on Thursday. I might go.
It's Halloween. Why did they move that?
If it's on Thursday, I'm going.
Oh, no. It's on the first. That's my fault. It's on the first.
Oh.
I read that wrong. I read the calendar wrong. I had 31 days in October. Of course.
Man, I was there. I was there.
I wanted to mention, and I forgot to, time got away from it. When the rankings came out yesterday early, I was going to tweet to Arizona varsity. Is there a team that is currently not in the open rankings that could make an open final? Which I do believe there is. I honestly believe Hamilton has that ability. I think it's these rankings just have me so screwed up. I mean, Queen Creek is currently outside of the open. They could make a final. I mean, it's great parity. I'll definitely say it's terrific parity. I mean, I'm looking at 3 teams that I don't think belong there. But it's just
name them. Name the 3.
I think there's. I don't want to say don't belong, but there's one team that we obviously know doesn't want to be in there. And,
there's one team, yes.
And that's Desert Mountain. So look, if they don't want to be in, then if they want, they can lose their way out of it or whatever they want to do to get out of playing in the open. Do I think that they have the listen? I've said this before. I think there's a talent disparity. 1, 2, 3, and then I think there's a drop off. I think that there's a little bit of a drop off, and then honestly, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like dude, it's all the same to me. Really.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of parity. I mean, I personally believe I believe Basha and Hamilton will end up meeting for a second time at some point. And I had mentioned that when they played in the regular season, I was like, this could be the first of 2 matchups. So we'll see, but they got to be shaded in green to get there. And right now, it seems like they may need some help if they don't lose on Friday. So we'll see.
Well, Hamilton's a moneymaker, so they might be able to get a different shade of green to push them into these to manipulate these numbers a little bit.
We'll see. We'll see. It's just weird to see a 7-1 team that plays in the Premier Region not be considered. So we'll see what happens. But folks, as always, he's Chili, he's Ralph, I'm Brett. We'll see you guys next week. This is the C-Town Rivals podcast.